Astro is known for islands, right? So islands are this idea where on your page you have like little islands of interactivity. This idea predates us by quite a couple years at least. Jason Miller of Preact fame wrote this article about islands as a kind of an architectural idea that was picked up. A lot of people like that. I think before him, there was this idea predates him as well. So it's kind of this idea that was being talked about a lot at the time. And there was a few small projects that try to implement islands, but it really hadn't gained steam. So we were like, oh, this is kind of a cool idea. And it kind of fits in, like I said, with our idea of making a better version of Snowpack, a higher level version of Snowpack. So it, just kind of a nice fit.
Matthew Phillips discusses Astro's Islands architecture, seamless component integration from frameworks like React or Vue, client directives for selective rendering, challenges in collecting metrics, and the introduction of AstroDB for database integration.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Modern Web Podcast. My name's Tracy. You can follow me on Twitter at LadyLeet or on LinkedIn at Tracy S. Lee. And I am joined by my two co-hosts today, Adam Rackis, who finally added me on LinkedIn. Oh my gosh. You're muted, I think, but finally Adam added me on LinkedIn.
We're LinkedIn friends now.
Yes. I'm still not verified on LinkedIn. I don't know how to connect my Clear app or even if I have Clear, so.
My life is better already.
Is it?
Yeah.
And Ben Lesh. Hi, Ben.
Oh.
You can follow Ben on Twitter at Ben Lesh.
Don't do it. It's a bad idea.
Or Adam at Adam Rackis.
Equally bad idea.
Yeah.
Probably. No.
But we are joined by our guest today, Matthew. And Matthew is, we'll let you introduce yourself.
Hello. I am Matthew Phillips. I almost forgot my last name there for a second. I am Matthew Phillips. I am with Astro. I work on the Astro project, the meta framework. So that is me. That is why I'm here. I'm a co-creator of Astro from the early days. So happy to be on, talk about whatever.
I didn't know you were a co-creator. That's really cool. I just thought you joined it at some later point. I had no idea.
No. Yeah, no. I joined Skypack. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah,
You're Astro OG.
Yes. Yeah, I think I was third or fourth employee. But yeah. First commit is me.
Whoa.
To Astro. Yeah. So I created the whole thing by myself, basically. Everyone else just kind of followed my lead, is the way I think about it.
What was the commit message?
Not true.
Work in progress? Or?
Yeah, no, it's probably like first commit or something like that, because we had worked on it for like a couple weeks before we pushed it to GitHub, and I think I just like rebased everything down, squashed everything down, and did a first commit push. Yeah.
I was going to do that actually, because Ben wrote this thing for me, and then I needed to push it up. But I needed to get rid of my key, so I had to squash it. And I was like, am I going to get rid of all my previous commits? Are my green squares going to go away? Actually,
yeah, you don't get the credit. Yeah.
So lame. And yeah, sorry, Ben, I had to take you out, even though you wrote the little thing for me.
Oops.
Now it just looks like I did it.
That's like
it's better that way.
The 10th worst thing that's ever happened to me on GitHub. So.
Ben has a lot of GitHub horror stories. Okay, well, Matthew, tell us then, about like Astro and just how it became and where you are now, and like it's been a while. You guys have been on this journey for a while. Has it only been 3 years? It seems like it's been pre-2020.
No, it was 2021.
Oh my goodness.
Because I joined Skypack at the end of 2020.
Oh my goodness.
And then pause if I need to like explain anything further, because now I realize I'm going to be talking about technologies that are a little bit older that maybe your audience is not even aware of. But I joined.
You see how old Ben and Adam look, though? I mean,
I know that they know all the things. I'm not worried about that.
Unfriend you on LinkedIn now.
All right, yeah. So I joined Skypack, which Skypack is a CDN, an ESN-based CDN. Basically, you can import React or anything like that from an HTTP URL. The use case would be like demo projects, small things that you want to, build just with the front end. You don't need to actually have a build tool. That was kind of the product that we were working on. But Fred, who, for those that don't know, it's Fred K. Schott, who founded the company. He also worked on Snowpack, which is a little bit more familiar to people. Snowpack was a predecessor to Vite. If you're aware of Vite, I'm not confusing my words. Snowpack was basically Vite before Vite. So it was a project that made it a much more, I would say, modern, simplified version of what you would do with Webpack, for example. And so, yeah, Snowpack was a pretty popular project at the time. And we were kind of thinking about what the next steps would be, and a little bit tied into SkyPack as well, because we had people using SkyPack, like I said, for like demo projects and stuff like that, but people weren't really using it in production. And we're trying to figure out, like, how can we make it easier to use SkyPack in production? And we thought, well, what if we hosted your website or something like that? Like, what if you told us, we have all these people using Snowpack, they're building Vite projects, React projects, etc. What if we could optimize that somehow? So our kind of first idea of Astro was just trying to optimize sites built with Snowpack. But in order to do that, we were like, well, we really need to know about how your app is served, like where are your different components and stuff like that. So kind of Astro evolved from that idea. I would say Fred probably had some ideas that we were building a static site generator way before I did. I thought we were building like a product, like kind of a hosting solution there at first, because we talked about possibly doing that. And yeah, I mean, it kind of evolved from there. So a lot of what Astro is, and I should probably explain that, it evolved from that. I can give some examples. Like, Astro is known for islands, right? So islands are this idea where on your page you have like little islands of interactivity. This idea predates us by quite a couple years at least. Jason Miller, Preact fame, wrote this article about islands as a kind of an architectural idea that was picked up. A lot of people like that. I think before him, there was this idea predates him as well. So it's kind of this idea that was being talked about a lot at the time. And there was a few small projects that try to implement islands, but it really hadn't gained steam. So we were like, oh, this is kind of a cool idea. And it kind of fits in, like I said, with our idea of making a better version of Snowpack, a higher level version of Snowpack. So it, just kind of a nice fit. What else? Yeah, kind of being multi-framework kind of evolves from that as well. Astro is a framework agnostic meta framework. You can bring in your Vue components, your React components, React, Svelte, Solid.js, anything you want to use. And that kind of evolved from our being based on Snowpack as well. Snowpack obviously would work with anything.
Do you want to talk about what islands of interactivity means and how that relates to using your favorite framework like React or Vue, and why that's maybe a good idea in a lot of cases?
Yeah.
If you want.
Yeah. No, let's do it. I'm
I want to make Astro look really good because I love what y'all are doing over there.
Okay. So an Astro, kind of the entry point to Astro is an Astro component, which is its own component structure, single file component. And you define basically HTML, but inside that HTML, you can have what we call islands. So you can use components. So you could have, for example, like, I don't know, if you're building an e-commerce website, you might have like a cart component. And that cart component it doesn't need to be Astro. It can be React or Svelte or Vue. And you tell it in Astro, there's we call these client directives. So you have this thing, client : it's an attribute. So you say client : load, client : idle. And that basically instructs Astro, I want this thing to load in the client, at some particular point in time. So that's kind of what an island is. It's just like a little, I can't think of a word that's not island, but a little pocket of interactivity on the page that's not connected to the rest of the page necessarily, like kind of a self-contained state. So you can have, like I mentioned the card example, you could imagine having, a display of the number of items in your cart. Maybe it drop downs and shows you what's in your cart. You can delete stuff, but that's all self-contained and not really related to the rest of the page. That's basically it. The cool thing about islands, though, especially the way we implement them, I think, is that and maybe this is where you're going to, Adam. There's this idea called progressive hydration? What's the word? I don't even know. Is that the right word? Maybe. Anyways, it's been so long. Yeah, I can't remember the term. But anyways, like rehydration is a term for when you render something on the server and then you render it again in the client. You basically, you do it twice, right? And with Astro, you only render the parts of the page that actually need to be rendered in the client. So like that card example, that is actually interactive, that needs to run in the client, but the rest of your page doesn't, right? Like I don't know, if it's a content-based website, maybe you have like a blog article or something like that, that doesn't change in the client. There's no interactivity. That can render only on the server. So one of the benefits, kind of obvious, but you don't load as much code in the client. You only load the code that actually, handles events, handles clicks, and whatnot.
That's interesting. So there's not so it wouldn't have, certainly any framework bits would need to have their hydration stuff run, but is Astro somehow able to differentiate that and prevent that from happening, or?
No, the hydration still happens, but it only happens within that island, right? You have your cart component, which is Preact or View or whatever. That still hydrates. Just back in the old days where you wire up a get element by ID and you'd render the element in a purely SPA manner. We're doing the exact same thing, but we're only doing it within that one place.
Your non-interactive islands, you guys ship your own sort of templating markup language that you use for the server only non-interactive bits. Is that right?
Yeah, we do. But you actually can use any framework for that part as well.
I can render React on the server and you guys will stringify that and ship? Of course you can. Yeah. Neat.
Yeah.
You can use either.
Yeah, I would say it's not super typical, because if you're using React or whatever, it's because you want interactivity. You would only do that if you just really wanted to use the thing you were familiar with. There are some downsides. We have the Astro format. We created that not just because we thought it was cool, but because we actually need that. That's how we know what the different islands are. Is we have our own templating language with our own rules. We can statically analyze that. I can get into the details of how it actually works implementation wise, but having that file format is what is the basis for allowing us to have islands.
The client directives, do you have ones that will let you hydrate these islands only if they come into viewport? If you have a footer that may not ever.
Yeah.
So you do support that?
Yeah. We have client visible is the one. Yeah.
Nice.
It basically uses the.
So if nobody scrolls to your footer, that code never even loads in your browser.
Yeah. One I really like that I think is underrated is we also have client media. So you can give it a media query and it will only hydrate if that happens. I had this in a previous job one time where we had this mobile app, and it was responsive design. And when you expanded it, it kind of had this this menu, this pretty elaborate menu. However, that code didn't exist in the mobile view. So that's the kind of thing that'd be really useful here. Is you could select the media query and say this thing only loads in the desktop, it never loads in mobile, or the opposite.
That's really cool. And as the user resets the screen, either they can both load, obviously.
Totally. Yes, it's very cool. Which is
I have use cases at work where I actually really want that, and I'm mad I don't have it with React or Next.
Yeah, well, you can switch. No, it's one of those things that how many users are actually resizing their browser? Not that many, but it's super cool.
Yeah.
So are there, I'm sure there's metrics around did this how many times was this component used, right? It'd be amazing to kind of see okay, literally 0 out of 10,000, 0 out of 10,000 visits to my website had the footer load. So why do we even have a footer in the first place?
Yeah, I know. I would love to have those metrics for us, like in the framework, but we can't do that. I would love to know, because I have a feeling that maybe client media is not used very much, but it's like my favorite thing. But
Yeah.
I don't actually know.
Yeah. How come you can't have metrics? Because
I mean, I
metrics
guess
slow
you
everything
can, but
down.
it's like, I don't know, it's like a privacy thing. Like, you can't collect data about what people are using. Can't like inject code to see if people are scrolling to the footer on someone else's website. I can't do that. So, yeah.
So lame. So lame.
Yeah.
So I like to view everything.
I know.
Tracy's a hacker.
Okay, Matthew, where are you from? Because you sound like not from California.
Yeah, I know. I got the twang. I'm from the South. I'm from like Kentucky. No, I am from Kentucky. I said like Kentucky. I'm from Kentucky. I live in Indiana, like on the other side of Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay,
Yeah.
Cool.
So you can actually
Indiana's
get
not the
Blanton's.
South, is it?
What's that?
You can actually get Blanton's probably.
Yeah, easily. Yeah,
Ah, easily.
yeah.
Ah,
Rubbing it in.
Tracy,
Every time-
she's literally.
Yeah, every time I see Adam post like his bourbon stuff on Twitter, I'm always like, it's just basic bourbon. What are you talking about?
just because you just have to go to Kentucky to buy it all? Is that the thing? You just go to Kentucky?
I don't know. I guess so. I don't
She's
know.
searching place for Kentucky.
Is Blanton's hard to get right now? For a while, it was.
Any
Blanton's
liquor store, they
impossible
get
to
like
get.
1 or 2 bottles a year, and they'll auction it, or they'll have a contest. Like it's
Yeah.
insanely hard to get. You have to know somebody to get Blanton's.
I have 8 bottles.
Okay. You can go to the distilleries in Frankfort, Kentucky. I'm sure you can get it there, I would think.
You have 8 bottles, Tracy?
Yes, I do.
At least, and like I keep trying to get her to pay me in a bottle of Blanton's for like things that I do, and she's like, "Nah."
That's true.
Here's-
You just have to come over
Here's
to my house
some
to drink it.
cookies.
Let's work out a deal here.
If you're looking for a cool bourbon, I would try Peerless, Perless. It's really cool. Kind of like indie distillery, small
I have
distillery.
recently been partial to Castle and Key, is one that I found
Okay.
that I thought was really good.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Peerless. Ooh, okay. I'll have to check that out too.
Yeah, they got a cool bottle. Good stuff.
Yes. Well, they always say cool bottles means not so great whiskey, but
Yeah.
does it have a lot of heat on it?
No, not that bad.
Not
that bad.
That's why I
It's
like
pretty
Blanton's.
smooth.
Does their website use Astro? That's the next thing. Like, can we?
I don't know. It should be. So there's I think there's. We could turn this into a whiskey podcast, but
I know.
I think there's some type of like copyright, or maybe that's not the right term, patent on the bottles. That's why they all look different. Just because you can't use the same bottle that Woodford uses, because they actually have a copyright
really?
protection on that bottle. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, I love whiskey. I love bourbon. Okay, so what's next for Astro? Like, I mean, all my frenzies love Astro plus Quick, but is that just like
Really?
a community?
That's cool.
Yes. You don't hear that often?
I mean, I've heard it recently. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how that happened. Yeah, that was like a community project, because Quick is kind of like its own meta framework, right?
Mhm.
So definitely a lot of similarities between the two, but the fact that people are like using Quick inside Astro is pretty cool. So that makes me happy, because that means we built the right thing, because like Quick is a very different model from Astro. Astro is all about islands, right? And islands have to hydrate. And Quick is all about don't hydrate at all. So it's kind of the opposite thing. So it's very cool that they can do that.
Yeah, I have to look up some of the blog posts and things like that, because everybody's just been saying like, oh my gosh, with Quick plus Astro, like everything it's like the magic. That is the magic that everybody should like
I wonder-
live and breathe.
I mean, I know. I'm always curious why the combinations are chosen. I mean, one cool thing about Astro, I don't know how many people will do this, but like if you're a big quick person, and you want to write all your code in quick, you can do that, but then you can still use React or some other framework, if you need to import some, very popular library or something like that. Now, again, you can do that in Quick City as well, I believe. So maybe it's not a huge Astro advantage, but that is something people do from time to time. But Astro is very content focused. So we have a lot of good APIs for having your content in a file-based structure and then querying that content and stuff like that. So yeah, I imagine, quick people are really passionate about getting the smallest amount of JavaScript. So I guess it is a good combination.
Before we get back to our conversation, we wanted to say thank you to This.Labs, who is the sponsor of today's show. If you need help with a project that has failed to deliver on time, or are in need of a team that feels true ownership over your engineering projects, definitely hit up This.Labs. They specialize in helping business leaders ensure their strategic digital initiatives stay on track. Trusted by companies like PlayStation, Capital One, Herman Miller, PayPal, and T-Mobile, you can find them at this.co. That's THISDOT.co. Now, let's return to our show.
I have a funny question. How many APIs is too many APIs? Or how many endpoints? How many
RxJS. Oh.
How many endpoints is too many endpoints? RxJS. Is that what you said? That?
How many APIs is too many APIs? And I said RxJS.
How many endpoints?
Yeah.
Like API endpoints?
Yes.
Is there an answer to this?
With a company, I guess. Yeah. Is it what about, is 2,000 a lot? Is 550? What is the optimal number?
Yeah, I don't know. I've never really worked. Well, I have. I haven't worked for big companies that much. So when you get into big company talk about constraints and micros. I mean, I've worked on those projects, but not long enough to have a feel for that.
Adam, what's your take?
I wouldn't want to do it.
200 is my nice round number. More than 200, and maybe we can start consolidating. Maybe.
Ben?
201. I want to beat Adam.
Yeah.
Well, Matthew, what are some of your hot? Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
I was just going to say, you guys nerd side me a little bit. Just so you know, Peerless Distilling Company does not use RxJS or Astro, but they do use Slick Carousel. So shout out to Ken Wheeler.
That's funny. Of course, a bourbon company
Still
uses
the best.
Ken Wheeler.
Still the top.
Is there Ken Wheeler in your code?
Right.
If you're a bourbon company, there has to be some Ken Wheeler in your code.
So what's the endpoint answer, Tracy?
What's the what?
The endpoint
It's the
answer.
endpoint.
Oh, what's the answer? I don't know the answer. I was just wondering. But Adam was the only one that gave me an answer, I guess.
A real answer.
Yeah.
Kind of copped out.
I don't know about your 201, Ben. Yeah. But okay. So next question. Matthew.
You asked me what the future of Astro is. I don't think I really answered that.
Okay, fine. We'll go with that one first. Future of Astro.
Yeah, that's way too big. What are we working on now? I can give you that.
Yeah, tell me.
I
Tell
got
us.
some notes. So one thing we're building is actions, like a server actions, a way to import, basically a simplified way to do RPC. So that's something that's currently being worked on. Now, Astro's kind of a bit, obviously different in that, we multi-framework kind of make everything a little bit different with Astro. But the goal is that you should be able to use a server action within any of your framework components. So, if you're doing, these are really form actions. If you're building a form in React or Astro, you should still be able to use the same thing. Type safety is a big, what's that?
No, please finish.
I was going to say type safety is a big important factor of that, is that you want to, make sure that when you're making your calls to your backend, that all of your parameters and everything is type safe, both coming in and coming out. Working on that. Let me see my list.
Before we move on from the server actions, what is the invalidation story going to look like? If I fire off a server action, are you going to provide me a way to say that some of this data has changed and send me down new markup to reflect new changes?
Well, it's not like React server component. It's not like you're not returning that kind of thing. It's just, this is more like, fetch calls and that sort of thing. I don't know what the cache story is there. I'm not working on this feature. I was wondering about that as well. Because isn't that a complaint that people have with like React server actions or whatever?
I have many complaints about server actions in React, but if you look at something else like SvelteKit, they also have their own way to invalidate and reload from their loaders, which actually works pretty well. So I was just curious which direction you all were thinking about going.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're still kind of early in the prototype stage, so I don't know. I'll pass along that feedback. How does Remix do it? Because I think we're partially inspired by Remix.
Pretty similar to
way to
SvelteKit.
invalidate. Yeah,
SvelteKit's like a similar but more powerful and kind of cleaner version of Remix in my experience. So you just tell it, invalidate this, and then the right loader will just rerun and then ship you back the new state of the world.
Yeah, I mean, I think ours is form concentrated, so we're more focused on like post requests. So yeah, in that respect, I'm not sure if we've really thought about that yet. But I mean, obviously you do want that for Git. So yeah, I'll ask about that. We might just punt on anything that's not like form based for the first version though.
Well, I have another question actually. So Astro is Astro the company as well?
Astro Technology Company. We have a really cool long name. Yeah.
ATC.
TATC. Yeah.
But so like, what else are you guys working on? Or, I mean, because there's got to be more, right? Like everybody loves the framework, of course, and open source, but what about from a business perspective? Is there?
Yeah. So we have AstroDB, which is the thing that we just launched. Last month. Mm-hmm. So AstroDB is a way to have a database as part of your project. So, you can think about use cases like, I don't know, like analytics or storing contact form submissions, that sort of thing, comments to your blog post. So it's a database. So basically it's trying to make it as easy as possible to add a database to an Astro project.
Is it a vector database?
No, nothing like that. That's way too fancy for us. We're just regular JavaScript engineers. We can't handle all that. No, we have SQLite based. So yeah, it's a really nice story where when you're working locally, you have like a little local SQLite database. That database, you can seed that database, if you want to have like some test data in your local development. And then when you move to production, you connect it to AstroDB, the cloud service. And with that cloud service, your production data gets saved to there. And it's, Edge and like all the fancy buzzwords associated.
I'm still dying for a robust database that will not just notify you that a particular column or row has changed, but like, if you have a query, have the built-in ability to be like, oh, this query has this graph, and I know that this changed, and therefore this might have changed, and this might have changed, and then like you could have a
query. Are you talking about migrations?
Notified you as things were changing or whatever, and like MongoDB does it, and technically Firebase does it, but neither one of them are like a full-fledged SQL sort of solution. I mean, they're great solutions.
Unless I may have misunderstood you, but the second part of what you said sounds like a SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server materialized view. You just save a query, you materialize it, and now anytime you change the data, the materialized view is smart enough to just change.
Oh yeah, that updates, but you don't get a notification.
Right.
Like you can't be like,
with the streaming
updates to a query, like a streaming query.
Like,
right. Yeah,
there's a problem that a lot of people want solved, and they don't know they want it solved until they want it solved, and nobody that wants those things solved works at a big company like Microsoft. So.
You could, if you want to get really funky and you don't mind getting in bed with Microsoft, even then you can do like CLR triggers. So when you change a column, there's a trigger that you can run actual code in, not just SQL. You can run C# code and send an email or push data down some WebSocket or do whatever you want.
Sounds like you're in bed with Microsoft.
SQL Server is amazing. That's one of the best databases
So
out there that no one talks about.
Postgres has that. You can do like update triggers. The problem is nothing like if you have like a bunch of joins, right? There's a whole graph, a dependency graph, if you will, of like if this cell updates, then this calculated thing updates, and this calculated thing updates, and then you get like then you know that this needs to be notified. And there's nothing really that does that. Is one of the things. You might be able to set up a view and a view and a view and a view, and then have like update triggers on a view, but that's not super dynamic for people's like research and data visualization needs. So anyway, sorry.
We do not have that. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it's okay. Nobody does. So that's fine.
Yeah, no, I don't know what I was. If I was, I guess I don't think I was saying anything.
Well, okay. So last question to round out the podcast. Matthew, what's your hottest take on the internet right now? Or should we have somebody else go so you feel more comfortable?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do that.
Let's see. Who do I choose? Ben, Lesh. Hottest take on the internet right now.
I'm so tired of React. I'm so tired of it. I guess that's not really a hot take because a lot of people are tired of it, but like.
You're tired of React?
Yeah, I'm over it. I'm over functional components. Definitely over hooks. Like
definitely what?
Back and use memo and all these things are just like it's just disjointed, implicit reactivity. I don't like it. It's silly, weird. I'm tired of it, but it makes me a lot of money, so I'm gonna keep using it.
Yeah. Is that like a hot take? Like, do you actually believe that, or are you just like hot taking for the internet?
Nope, I really believe it.
If you could use anything, what would you rather be using at work?
I think maybe like a solid or a view or a spelt somewhere in there.
I knew you were gonna say solid.
What was the thing you said between solid and spelt? Deep?
I mean,
deep.
Honestly, no, I think that the biggest thing for me is that solid was more developed from like state management reactivity first, and then that direction where spelt's been iterated on several times, and there's different bits in it. It's still great. I mean, it still has all the same good stuff in it. It's just, I feel like spelt is, or solid's a little, it's funny to say that solid's a little more spelt than spelt, but like, I feel like solid's a little bit more designed with the sort of reactivity I would be concerned with.
My hot take, I'm still fine with React. I think React server actions are going to be really, really overrated, and they're going to be useful for a lot fewer use cases than a lot of people realize. And it's not just the serial execution thing that I've been complaining about on Twitter. It just re-renders your entire React server component tree. And so you better have every single thing cached except for the thing that changed. And I mean, we all know caching is a hard problem in computer science to get right. So it's a whole lot of work to get right. And you're probably better off with React Query doing your invalidation and just refetching the data with an extra round trip. It'll actually be faster than the server action if you don't have everything cached right. I'm not happy with it.
Interesting. I want to jump on that one a little bit. I think that it's interesting. I saw this kind of a tangent, but I saw someone tweeting about there aren't that many like React server component libraries out there, and they were like really curious as to why that is. You know, it's been, I think, like close to a year since they came out. There's not really a lot of React server component libraries. Like what's causing that? I don't know.
What would they do?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, the markdown renders and like stuff that you want to have on the servers, presumably it, but it hasn't really happened yet.
Render slider. It's a slider.
Okay. All right. My hot take. I'm gonna go a little bit more abstract, which is I think we're like at an inflection point with frameworks where every framework has tried. I shouldn't say every. A lot of frameworks have tried to React, like do a better version of React, and I think that it's not working because it doesn't matter. Being better at someone else, being better than the incumbent doesn't win because the incumbent, has the ecosystem, has, they have the momentum, and I think momentum matters more than anything. It's the whole worse is better and all that stuff. So I think we're at an inflection point where maybe we need frameworks to be more ambitious and to try something completely different, completely new paradigm. Yeah, that's my hot take.
I mean, that's the history there is that's Angular and React, right? Like Angular had all the momentum.
Yeah.
And yeah, React was little known outside of Silicon Valley for a long time.
Right. And I think that it has to happen if there would to be like a new paradigm, a new thing. I think it has to happen almost like in an indie developer level, because I think companies, even individuals who like work on their framework for a company, don't have the incentive to like do something really, really strange and different. And I think that's actually what's probably required.
I think Quick might qualify to some degree there.
Now that's community.
What would?
Quick.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's the idea of like, oh, I'm gonna, view this entire rendered page as like some sort of graph, dependency graph, and figure out like what JavaScript actually needs to be sent. And like, we don't rehydrate things; we just resume them after having executed some of it on the server. Like that is a step ahead of where everything else is. Now, whether or not it'll pan out or catch on, who knows? But
we used to have a lot of weird stuff in web dev. Anybody remember cycle.js?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I not remember that.
Of course, Ben knows that.
Yeah. That's well, they were talking even within the React community, there was a section of people, especially like a vocal group of people that wasn't me at Netflix, that were like, if React was just a render function, we could make it an observable of JSX, and you would just compose observables, and then it would like output and render out, like you'd subscribe and just render whatever came out of it. And that, of course, thank God that never caught on. But that's that was the whole idea with Cycle. And I think Cycle was better executed than that, amorphous idea. But
Well, this was fun. Lots of fun hot takes. That sparked some interesting conversation. We're obviously super excited about what's happening with Astro. All of y'all should check out AstroDB and Astro and Quick. And React is going away. That was my takeaway from what Ben said. So we should all be moving over to Solid. But if you ask Adam, it's Svelte Kit.
Both good.
Yeah.
Solid starts pretty far behind, but it'll catch up. Solid is amazing, and I love what Ryan is doing over there.
Yeah. So anyways, definitely check out Matthew. Where can we find you on the internet?
I don't know. I guess Twitter, Matthew CP. That's me.
He is the best follow on Twitter. You better be following Matthew Phillips.
And you can follow myself on Twitter at Lady Lead or Adam at Adam Rackis, and then Ben at Ben Lesh. And thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Sometimes it's hard to bridge the gap between business objectives and tech implementation, and it can get messy. This dot is trusted by top names like Meta, Google, and T-Mobile, and they love helping business leaders fulfill their strategic digital initiatives. Check them out at thisdot.co. One more time, that's THISDOT.co.